you
Cool.
go.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, now I can. Well,
Cool.
welcome on. There's people joining, so I'm gonna give him like a minute or so to come in. I'm just gonna like wave to everybody real quick.
Okay.
Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, I can hear you. Great.
Awesome. Welcome on,
Are you
guys. We'll get started in a minute or so here. I just want to give people a chance to get on.
are you excited for Slang and Smoke?
Yeah, I am. I
Yeah.
a lot of people are really excited about Radford's track. I guess they don't normally have people drift out there, so that should be cool.
Yeah, I'm excited. I'm open. It's from what I've heard, I've never been on it, but supposedly it's like pretty tight, so we'll see. I'm hoping just that the lighting's good and that the drifters like it because it would be awesome to get something a little bit better than the skid pad.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be an improvement regardless because we actually get to get on track this time. So
Yes.
there's got to be something good that comes from that.
Yeah.
Okay. So some folks are joining as we're chatting. I just want to welcome everybody on. I'm sure people will pop in and out as this goes on. That's pretty much how it goes. But Nate is our guest today, NWBY, Newbie Media. So that's his
Yeah.
if you're not familiar. And he had the unfortunate position of me seeing a media person in a vest and like basically barnacling myself to him the very first time that I was out at track because I had never been to that particular track before, WHP in Arizona. That was my first time. And we bonded over the fact that we couldn't really do much with West Track because it was so dark and they wouldn't let us get on track. And
Yeah.
I am so happy that he's willing to come here and talk because when we were chatting on the track, it was nice to kind of get a different perspective and how he got into this. So I'm going to turn it over to you so you can share how that happened.
Okay, so I guess my story is that I mean, okay, you can go way back, way into cars when I was a kid, right? Initial D, what was it? Option, getting the DVDs from Netflix when they used to do that, watching all that stuff, and then I did some pit crew stuff for some drifters, like when I was in high school, and then did the military thing, whatever. Anyways, finally was able to make enough money that I could start racing. I started racing motorcycles, and I was doing that for I think it was about 3 years, and then I had a bad accident, broke my spine. I got hardware holding me together, and I was like, well, what am I going to do now? Like I could finally race, and now I can't anymore. And then I was like, well, I'll buy a camera, and then I'll just get as close as I can. That was like the biggest plan I had. It wasn't as smart as I think people might think it was, but it was yeah, it was just like I'll just buy a camera and then I will get as close as I can, and that was the whole idea.
Right. And it worked perfectly, right? No learning
Yes.
curve, nothing, just straight in.
Well, I mean, no. I mean, I had a huge learning curve, but I did have the advantage of I was stuck on my couch for 3 months, so I didn't have anything else to do. So I basically just spent 3 months like reading everything I could find on cameras, camera theory, everything else. And like initially, I really wanted to do video, not so much photos, but well, doing video properly is like way more expensive and time consuming. And so I did a little bit of video first, and then I was like, well, people kept asking me for photos, and then I was like, okay, well, I guess then I'll buy a photo camera and do that because the GH5S can do photos okay, but it's so video focused that it was just a pain. It was just a pain to work with. So I bought a used Canon 5D Mark III for $550, I think I got it for.
Wow.
It has like 120,000 actuations on it. I mean, it's like it was used up, but I was like, whatever, I'll get it for cheap. And then I bought a first gen 70 to 200 f2.8 lens. I got that for $800, which was a good deal. And then I just started shooting with that, and like it's kind of I think overkill to kind of start on, but at the same time, like again, I spent 3 months sitting on a couch doing nothing but like watching videos like on everything. Like, how does the Canon autofocus system work? You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
going way deeper than I needed to because I didn't have anything else to do. So I was able to grow into it, I think, pretty quickly because I've only been doing this for 2 years now.
Right.
Just about 2 years. Yeah.
So about
So
the same as me. About the same as me. We have some folks give some comments. So one response was the reasons why we don't let them on track is because other people don't want to listen and ruin it for everyone else. Very true. It's
yep.
definitely a game where you have to hope that people know what they're doing, because when they don't, they affect everybody else who does. And also, there's a lot of like excitement with drifting. And there was an event that I was at, and a person literally ran on track with her phone following after the car.
Oh my God.
So like there's a lot of stupid stuff that can happen at drift meets, and that affects all the rest of us. Totally agree. And then 6K Stang said, missing you guys down here at Musselman. Yeah, I'm bummed I'm not going to be at Musselman tomorrow. Are you going down?
Yes, I will be there tomorrow.
There you go.
I'm excited.
Nate's going to be
So,
there. So
yeah.
you mentioned video and more drivers wanting photos, but you have a video setup that I thought was interesting. You want to tell us about what you have for that?
Okay, yeah. So I have a GH5S Panasonic. It's a crop sensor. It does low light okay, but it's not that great. It's really good for gimbal work and stuff. Like I can shoot 4K 60 frames, and I wish I could shoot more slow motion. Like I'd really like to be able to shoot like 120, 160 at 4K, but I got to spend a lot of money to get there, so I haven't done that yet. But I have what's called a Metabone Speed Booster, and that essentially goes onto the camera, and then it allows me to mate Canon EF glass straight
Wow.
to it. And so because the glass is designed for a full frame, this speed booster, I have it, I can pull it out, but it turns the lens from a 70 to 200. You take the crop factor into account or whatever, and it becomes it's like a 115 to 280 millimeter equivalent.
Mm-hmm.
But it also brings it down a stop, so now it becomes an f1.8. So any
Wow.
glass I put onto it, now I get dropped. So it's really good for wild horse because I
Yeah.
can go way low on the f-stop with this big telephoto lens
Mm-hmm.
and capture stuff. So, but yeah, it's awesome. It works. I have a fluid head tripod that I put everything on, and I've got a cage for the camera, and then I got a microphone and all that stuff. It's not a super expensive setup. It's more expensive than my photo stuff, but I did it like as cheap as I could. I buy everything used. I've
Used.
never purchased a new. Oh, you know what? The straps, the camera straps, my camera straps are new.
Right.
Other than that, everything's used. Oh no, my ND filters are new too. But other than that, I buy all my equipment used because there's like, especially right now, it seems like so many people are, especially like professionals, stuff like that. They're moving to mirrorless, so all their DSLR equipment they're offloading, and
Mm-hmm.
they don't really care. So you can get it for cheap if you are patient and you look for the right deal.
Mm-hmm.
So
So when I upgraded, I was trying to choose between mirrorless and sticking with the DSLR, and I just stuck with the DSLR because a lot of times when we're out there, and I'm sure it's that way for you too, if I need to change settings, I don't want to take the time to put my camera down and do all this. I want to know exactly where everything is so I can just do it on the fly. So that's why I
yeah,
stuck with the DSLR. But it's a good tip that people are offloading, because I definitely will be happy to take their stuff.
exactly. And
Yeah.
like even with like the shutter count, because I think people get too caught up on like, oh, it has like 150,000 shutter count. It's like, yeah, it's a lot, and that's the rated life. But I mean, if you go on forums and you really dig, a lot of these shutters last 300K plus. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, there's people out there with over a million actuations on the same shutter, and then in reality, like I don't know how the other brands are, but with Canon, like if I need the shutter replaced, it's not that expensive. It's like $300,
Right.
and then I'll have a brand new, fresh, ready to go shutter. So
Yeah.
instead of spending, because I really want the R3, and what is that? That's like $5,000. I bought a used Canon 5D Mark IV for $1,100 with 80,000 actuations on it. And yeah, sure, the R3 probably does take better photos, but in reality, you know, people have been using 5D Mark IVs professionally at
Mm-hmm.
the highest level
Yep.
for years and years and years. So just because there's the new stuff out doesn't mean you absolutely have to get the brand new best stuff.
Exactly.
Like 5 years ago, it didn't exist.
Yeah.
And what do the pros use? You can get it cheap now.
Yeah.
Buy it.
I mean, up until February of this year, I was still using my 7. So I had been using that for like 13 years or something. Like it still
Nice.
works fine. I didn't sell it. I'm keeping it as my backup so I can have two, you know?
Yep.
Hi, Cole. I'm waving at you. Sorry. Somebody's like, how do I wave? Like, I got you. I'm waving at you. We also have Steve Miller said DSLR for the win. So
Yeah.
yes, Canon 5Ds. So yeah. One of the other things that I thought was interesting is to talk about the difference in shooting drift versus motorcycles, because you just did
Okay.
what MotoGP, right?
Yes, I did. I got the big show and went to MotoGP. It was pretty amazing. Actually, I underplayed. It was incredible. Like my mind was blown the whole time. But um, as far as shooting motorcycles versus cars, motorcycles are obviously smaller. So like I always shoot with an ND filter, especially in daylight. I like the way it looks. So I run a ND64. It's a Polar Pro. An ND64 is dark. Like you put it on, it's a dark tinted piece of glass. You can't see anything beyond it once you put it on the lens. But especially in Arizona sun, it allows me to shoot f3.5, f4 in the middle of the day with no clouds in the sky and still have an ISO under 1,000. So it's like, it gets me in that sweet spot because I like to shoot f100 and lower, and that's the move. So for motorcycles, I like to shoot f3.5, and I find that usually gets me almost the entire motorcycle in focus. They usually blur maybe the bottom of the wheels, depending on if they're leaned over or not, or if they're at a slight angle, it'll blur just the back tail of the motorcycle, and everything else will be like perfectly in focus.
Mm-hmm.
For drifts, I mean cars in general, I like to shoot, f4 or higher,
Mm-hmm.
5.6, just because they're larger. So you need a bigger focus area to capture the entire vehicle.
Right.
Um, I mean, at Wild Horse, it's impossible. I was trying to shoot f3.5,
Yep.
and like the ISO is at 6,400. I'm 2 stops underexposed.
Yep.
At 1/60th of a second on the shutter speed, there's nothing you can do about it at that point. But I've done some car stuff at f2.8, but it's so hit or miss because even the camera's struggling in the low light, the autofocus is struggling in the low light.
Mm-hmm.
And then you're doing a quick panning shot as they come by, and you're in AI servo mode, and the focus switches all the time. Like sometimes you
Yep.
get the face, which is what I want. Most of the time, I'm trying to get people's faces, and then sometimes you'll get like just the front of the car or just the back of the car, which most of those photos I just toss.
Mm-hmm.
I because I'm really picky, but yeah, I mean, it's not that different. Like I would say all the techniques are pretty much the
Mm-hmm.
same. Camera settings a little bit different depending on the look you're going for. The one big thing is for drifting, especially if they're really good, the drifts tend to be smooth. They tend to initiate their drift, they'll get into an angle, and then there's an arc, and it's a pretty consistent arc that they go through the corner,
Mm-hmm.
which is great when you're trying to get panning shots because they're not rotating or they're kind of like in a fixed position moving around you. And
Right.
then that makes you can get great panning shots doing that because they're nice and consistent. Motorcycles are more difficult. They break longer and then they accelerate way faster. So you kind of get this moment, and if you're trying to capture motorcycles, especially exiting a corner,
Mm-hmm.
your pan will literally have to speed up as you're trying to follow
Right.
them. And like MotoGP, like okay, so most like motorcycle stuff, I'll shoot 1/100th of a second, like pretty much no problem. I can shoot that all day, not a big deal. MotoGP, I was struggling at 1/160th, but I mean it was like a whole nother level. These guys are so fast
Mm-hmm.
that I had to adjust all of my settings shutter speed wise because I was like, I'm not getting anything in focus at all. Everything was messed up. So yeah, I was shooting like 1/160th, 1/250th of a second. But then also I was shooting it mostly at 200 millimeters, which wasn't enough for Coda because you're still far away from the track there. And then trying to do 400 millimeter handheld pans at like 1/60th is very difficult. My hit rate was not high. I did get a couple good shots, but I just recently bought a monopod. I'm starting to try and figure out how to use that because I think if I had had one, that would have helped me a lot. Because once you're at 400 millimeters, it's just like any slight, I mean, just
Right.
breathing will screw up the whole image. So,
Yeah, and that's one of the reasons why there wasn't a lot of West Track at Easter Drift, because you're
yes.
in low light and we're having to hand hold a very heavy piece of equipment, pan and get you in the dark, and the
Yep.
camera's like, no,
Yep.
I'm checking out. See ya.
Yeah, I did some math on that. What was it? Hold on. I wrote it down. Did it around. So what is it? Okay, so yeah, Wild Horse Pass, super dark, right?
Yep.
Autofocus doesn't like that it's so dark, so it's struggling, right? So you're dealing with that. And then, okay, so let's say you got, I think it's about 5 pounds with the 5D and the 70 to 200 EF
Yep.
lens.
Yep.
So let's say you only had 40 cars, which is always more than that. You have 40 cars drifting, and they only got 6 runs each. And then you were to take a photo every time they go by. That's, where did I put it? That's like 240 repetitions of taking the camera up to your eye, focusing, and then doing a pan. And it exhausts you. Like, you don't think about it because it's, sure, the camera's kind of heavy, but not really.
Mm-hmm.
But after like 200 times, like I'll notice that my arms start to fatigue and my hit rate starts to immediately drop just because I can't hold the camera steady. And especially in those low light conditions, it's super slow shutter speeds. It's a crapshoot almost half the time.
Yeah, totally. So I have a question. Have you tried a 420 69 millimeter lens?
That's my buddy. He's being a jackass.
Yeah,
That's
and
what he does.
what 400 millimeter lens do you
Oh,
use?
okay. So for 400 millimeter, I'm using the 70 to 200 EF f2.8 lens, and then using the 2x extender. Top tip: you can get like perfect camera equipment from Japan, perfect, shipped on eBay, and they'll like even like leave origami in the package when they ship it to you and like say like thank you for buying this stuff for me. But I think I got my 2x extender, and it's a Gen 1, it's not a Gen 3. I think I got it for like $400 shipped or something like that.
Okay.
But it's super cheap because they're really expensive. I mean, all the extenders are, but that's what I've done. I can't afford a 400 millimeter lens. Not yet. I'm getting there. I'm trying.
Yeah, I can't either. And Instagram is so kind to serve me an ad of a $9,000 lens.
Oh, you're talking about
Clearly,
the
I'm there.
RF 100 and 300?
Yeah.
Yes. Oh, I want that lens so bad. I would love to upgrade, and then, oh my goodness, that lens is probably like I can't imagine. It's also that 100 to 300 RF lens also works with a 2x extender. So
Okay.
like, oh my God, like it would be the perfect. Literally, it would be the perfect lens for doing like anything motorsport.
Yeah.
You literally have 100 to 600 millimeters at your disposal easily, and the RF lenses are so much lighter than the EF stuff. Like, man, one day I'll be able to buy all that stuff.
Right. Same. I like have my little list that I keep track of, and just in case something pops up. Jacob wants to know if eBay is a pretty good place to get camera gear. Jacob was on Bunny Wall Smash with us.
Oh, okay. Oh yeah. Yeah. I think eBay is a really good spot. In fact, I mean, man, I have bought a lot of camera gear from eBay, and it has all been fantastic. Though, however, everything I buy is from Japan, so that might have something to do with it. But let's see. Can I even see my eBay orders right now? Well, anyways, I recommend it. I my let's see. Oh, here it is. Okay, so I bought yeah, I bought an old EF 28 to 70 millimeter. They stopped making those like in 2000, but I got that for like $250 or something on eBay, and it's perfect.
Wow.
I'm like, if you find good eBay listings from Japanese sellers, they'll tell you that there's no mold or scratches on the glass or anything, and there'll be all kinds of photos so that you can see it or whatever. But like, I haven't been screwed yet, and I've spent probably over 2 or 3 grand on camera equipment from Japan.
Okay.
And
so
a lot of it has been older stuff, and it has all been perfect.
Yeah. So specifically look for Japanese sellers if you're going to buy on
Yes,
eBay.
yes, yes.
I get used stuff from B&H sometimes or Autorama. I've used both of them, so that's another option other than eBay. And we have a little discussion going on in the comments about what's happening at Wild Horse the 3rd versus the 24th. So I will not be there the 3rd. I will be there June 24th, and so will he. That's the Modded Culture event, so we're going to be there for that. So one of the things that you mentioned is a hit rate. Do you want to explain what that is?
Oh, okay, yeah, okay. So for people that don't know, these beautiful beautiful blurred backgrounds with the subject perfectly in focus is not easy to do.
Right.
Essentially, in reality, it all comes down to a physics problem. You're essentially trying to keep the subject in the exact same spot in the frame, which you have to do with your eye through a camera lens while they're moving, and you're shooting, let's say you're shooting 1/80th of a second. So that shutter opens for 1/80th of a second,
Mm-hmm.
and if that subject moves even a little bit up, down, left, or right, the photo's blurry and it's not worth keeping it. If you land it and you keep it in the exact same spot, the background turns into a blur and it looks incredible, especially if you get even down lower. Oh my God, like 1/15th shots, the background turns into a painting.
Mm-hmm.
But it takes a lot of time and a lot of skill to land those, and especially at night at Wild Horse when there's no light, it makes it even 1,000 times worse because you're relying on the autofocus to make all those decisions about this subject while the shutter's open. And if it for even a second decides, oh, you know what, I don't like because usually I aim at like the side mirror. I'll be like, oh, never mind, I'm going to focus on the face now. That photo is also ruined completely because then it just looks bad. So depending on the light, depending on the location and everything else, I mean, I usually start shooting at 1/100 to 1/220th of a second. That's like my go-to, and I warm up. It's not like I just go out there and I'm able to just start landing these. I treat it just like I would any other skill. So I use that as like warm-up and start, okay, yeah, I'm feeling good, my pan's good, my breathing's good, because that's another thing I think about is I treat it like I'll hold my camera and I hold the front the same as I would hold like a firearm, and I point it at the target, and then I even do like similar breathing techniques, stuff I learned in the military. I'll start shooting at the bottom of my breath as I'm panning to try and remove any variance, because if I breathe in, the camera lens will start to go down, and if I breathe out, it'll start coming up. So trying to even eliminate that. Now with like all these IS lenses, they have stabilization.
Yes. Thankfully.
Yeah, it helps a lot. I've landed some stuff with non-stabilized lenses, but the hit rate on that stuff is ridiculous. I mean, it'll be like 1 in 50 shots that I'll actually hit it. With an image stabilized lens.
Stereo Vision.
Go ahead.
Said that this is worse with his manual lens. Like, you're a trooper for doing that with a manual lens, because no.
Yeah, no thanks. You'd be out there all day just trying to get stuff. Oh, Jacob is saying, no, I don't hold my breath. You just breathe in. That's the technique. It's the pause. That's what I do.
It's basically the pause. Yeah. And then asking about the camera stand. He did say that he just got a monopod, but I mean, you had one on a tripod at the track. That was the film cam or the recording that you were doing.
Yeah. So the tripod was for my video camera.
Right.
I can't imagine actually trying to shoot or doing panning shots with a tripod, just because, I mean, unless you're perfectly level and the car is traveling on perfect level ground, I can't see how you could keep the fluid head from doing this as you're panning with the thing. Now, I did buy a monopod. I bought this Manfrotto one. This is new. I tried it. It works okay. I'm kind of not into it too much, but it also comes down to my technique, because, like, I like to move the camera around my body, so I'll shoot like this and follow the target, but this makes it so I can't do that. I have to move around the camera when I use this, because just it's just the physics. It's the physics of it. Like, when this is angled, it's got a little ball joint, right? When it's angled, I'm following like this. I've now moved the camera vertically on an arc. It's no longer going like this. The camera does this through the follow through, and then that ruins the photo. So I'm kind of struggling to learn how to use this, but I think, especially for like 400 millimeter or more, like, this is probably going to be really useful. But any for smaller lenses, no. I do everything handheld. It's just that's how I learned how to do it, and I think it works best. It takes, I think, a little more skill and stuff, but it's really rewarding when you land really good shots.
Yeah.
Like, I've landed landed some 120s, some 125s, 115s at Wild or at Musselman, which I'm hoping to do tomorrow again. And those are my favorite photos because they look like art. I mean, it looks like it's ridiculous what they look. I mean, here, I can just turn this around because this is my screensaver, but like
Nice.
this shot,
Yeah, very
that came
nice.
straight out of the camera like that. I didn't do anything but adjust the colors. You know what I mean? So like,
Yep.
it you can't get that any other way. Like I see people try and post process blur or whatever, and like you can make it kind of convincing sometimes, but like too much work for me personally. Like I don't like spending a lot of time editing. I like to more just get everything culled and then get it into Lightroom and build a basic LUT for the pack, and then just doing that to all the photos. Like I
Yeah,
try and
because
get everything
you
done
get
in camera. It's like
yeah, you get yours out super quick. Like that's one of the things that
yes,
I realized is like I take forever culling. I hate it. It drives me crazy. But like you had your stuff up quick after that event, and that I found that impressive. So that's one
I
of the
will
things
tell
that I
you.
go ahead.
I'll tell you all my secrets. So I call on the go. So like car comes by and I'm immediately reviewing, and anything that looks blurry on that small screen, I know it's trash anyway. So I just immediately start deleting. I
Wow.
don't
Okay.
even I don't even bother like, oh, this shot looks kind of cool. Maybe it's okay. Nope, slightly blurry, delete. Like no remorse, just it's trash, get rid of it. And then I do that the entire night. And then, I think from that Wild Horse event I had 900 photos or something. I must have taken like 2,000, but 900 are what were left on the SD card when I got home.
Mm-hmm.
And then I have this program called Fast Raw Viewer. And the nice thing about it is that it loads RAWs immediately. Because
Wow.
in Lightroom, you'll go to load up an image and it takes like 5 seconds to
Mm-hmm.
load. And then you're like, oh, it's no good. And then you got to delete it. And it even takes time for that. Fast Raw Viewer,
Wow.
instant, the raw is displayed, so they'll all be noisy because it's more of like a scientific tool, not necessarily like a image editing tool. But it just gives you the raw data instantly on your screen, and then I have two keys on my keyboard. I use X and C. X is for reject, and C is for keep. And then I see the photos, and I just I'm able to call through about 1,000 in like under 40 minutes usually.
Whoa. That's
Um, and
crazy.
and the nice thing is that like the rejected photos aren't getting deleted. They're just getting put in a folder called rejected. So I have them for later. I can go back if I'm looking for something, or maybe I messed up and culled the wrong
Mm-hmm.
image. I am able to just go back and put it in the accepted folder. And then once I have everything in the accepted folder, I know everything in there is stuff I accept as, sharpness and everything else. I think it's good. I only load those into Lightroom, and then that's the other thing. When I'm at the event, usually, there's that one shot you'll get that shot, and you're like, oh, that's the shot of
Yeah.
the night.
Yeah. Yeah.
With the Canon 5D, you can rate that image. So I'll rate it 5 stars, just that one image. And when I load into Lightroom, automatically I can go rated. It goes to that one image. I'll do all of my adjustments for that one image. I copy all the settings, paste it to everything, and then I just kind of go through and make sure nothing's too whack. Sometimes, you need to adjust exposure or something on individual images. I
Yep.
just go through and then export to JPEG, and then I'm uploading as fast as I can. Like I'm just going for it, getting it out there. But the only way you can do that is if you get almost all the work done in camera. I'm not editing, I'm not masking, I'm not keying the brush, I'm not doing
Mm-hmm.
any of that. I'm just everything people are seeing from me is how it came out of the camera for the most part. There's
Right.
some stuff that I mess with, but I don't think I've done anything special since a car show, Concourse in the Hills up here. I think that's the only time I actually sat down and edited all my images for Instagram before I posted them.
Okay. So that's similar to how I am because I really try, and it's a holdover from film days. I really try to just get everything in camera. But one of the things with panning is it's just like rapid fire, shoot, shoot,
Yes.
shoot, shoot, shoot as they go by, and in the hope that you didn't breathe wrong or you didn't step wrong or your strap didn't get caught on your vest or whatever,
Yes.
which happens. Like there's,
Yep.
especially if you're handhold, which I do too. I don't have a tripod for track. Um, Sometimes you just get jammed up in
Yep.
whatever, and especially at Wild Horse, that pile of tires, like there's stuff all over the ground. There's the light goes out
Yep.
right over your head while you're shooting. Like all of those
Yep.
things happen. So can't always get stuff in the camera, but we try. Stereo Vision wants to know if you like film or photo more.
Well, like video or photo? I've never shot like normal film. I've never. I mean, maybe when I was a kid with like a little old roll, whatever, disposable cameras, but I've never actually shot like actual
I think
film. I like
he
doing
means video.
video.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love doing video. I think I like it more than doing photos, but it really comes down to cost because like if if I get photos, 50, 60 photos of people, 50 or 60 people, because I charge for all my stuff, that usually makes me enough money that it was like, okay, it was worth it for after you take my editing time into account and all that stuff. Because like after a drift event, I'm like this with every event. It's not just the drift events. I come home and I'm up until they are uploaded, and then I make my post on Facebook and Instagram saying, hey, all the photos are up, so that when all these guys wake up, everything's available for them right then. Video, I can't do that, and the setup's way bigger, way heavier. It's a lot more difficult just to get everything in line, because like if I need to do like if I want to get close-up shots of someone's car, okay, now I'm doing gimbal work, and then later I have to get driving or riding shots, and that requires a whole nother setup. So and it usually takes me 5 to 10 minutes to get everything set up. I like the video more, but like the editing process takes time. I'm feeling pretty good at it now. Like with Premiere, if I have a plan before I go shoot, I can usually get the clips I want, and when I get home, I can get them all in and get a reel done in like 3 hours or so. But that means like all the clips I took are like it's just a clip. I'm not spending time trimming or trying to find where I took this shot. Like I have to take like all the clips, and so that I only have like let's say a minute in Premiere to look at, and I can get it done in about 2 to 3 hours. Because I mean, I got to find music. I got to make sure that I can use the music on my business account. And I got to get that imported, and then you got to start the editing process, speed ramping, color grading. That's the other thing. I shoot everything in vlogs. So I color grade all of my stuff too, and I don't need to do that, honestly. I've thought about like just stopping, but like I keep doing it because I really want to understand and learn how to properly color grade stuff, because that's a whole like color grading is its own skill within itself. It's highly specialized. I mean, if you look up like what a colorist does for Hollywood and stuff, like it's a whole job thing by itself. It's very difficult to understand. There's all kinds of science that goes into it. I don't understand. I'm not gonna pretend to. Like trying to learn how to use all those tools and stuff has kind of been personally my thing. So I like video more than I like photos, but I feel like I've gotten really good at the photo thing. So and I get more reward for my photos. People actually want to buy photos, whereas like if I was going to charge someone for the video, I mean the equipment alone, I think my video equipment alone cost me over $5,000, and then it's like my time, the programs, everything else. It's like I'm invested a lot, and then it's like I can't charge. Like if I'm telling people, okay, because this is my rate, I charge $200 for an Instagram reel. Most people aren't going to pay that, and I don't blame them. It's a lot of money for a 10 to 15-second clip, but photos, I can do a lot of people, so I can keep my prices really low, and then everybody has something that they want, which is great. But yeah, I don't know. I like both, but video is the reason I got into this in the first place. So I guess video is my bigger favorite.
Yeah. So Ken is asking what first attracted you to drift/moto events. So we talked about that when we first popped on, but as you mentioned, you like doing video at the very beginning. And then do you have any other artistic passions when you're off of the track?
I mean, this is my buddy too.
Okay.
I grew up with this guy. He knows. Dude, I had car posters in my bedroom when I was growing up, dude. That's what attracted me to drift moto events. We were doing that stuff when we were kids. Like him and I were ripping around in his 240 back in, God, was that 2006?
Wow.
And then artistic passions, I mean, kind of. I'm diving into this AI stuff now, which is like terrifying and weird and trying to figure out how it all works. But I've had some pretty good results. But otherwise, no. Not really. I'm not that artistic of a person, I guess. I'm more of a do guy. I just always want to do stuff because, like, honestly, yeah, I love doing the photo video. I'd much rather be doing it,
Yeah.
and specifically motorcycle racing. I would rather be doing that than anything I'm doing. But out of the cards now at this point. So,
yeah. Well, one of the questions that kind of came up through this conversation as we're moving, you were talking about MotoGP and how you're keeping the motorcycle in focus. And what I'm getting from a lot of drifters is that more blur is better, right?
yes,
So like you might cull a photo or I might cull a photo and they'll be like, that's perfect. I love it because I
yes,
look
yep.
cool. Like, so it's a different mindset. Do you really switch yourself to do that? Or are you just exactly the same as MotoGP? Like, this is what you like, so this is what you produce.
I wouldn't say it's like it's a so in Fast Raw Viewer I have everything blown up to 200%, and if I'm at 200% and I notice that things aren't sharp, it's gone. Like for me, immediately rejected. I won't even bother. There's only been one time, and that was Chris Wadding's Jeep. It was shooting a ton of flames, and I got a really good shot, but it wasn't quite
Right.
in focus the way I liked it.
Yeah.
I kept that. Literally every other image of whatever, how many photos it is I've taken now, gone, deleted immediately. I don't even go back and look. I just reject them and just never look at them again. And I do that for everything, but
Right.
I don't know if it's just because like I have a high like standard for what I want people to be able to get. It's just like I personally would feel bad because I do charge for all my photos. I would feel bad selling something to somebody that they couldn't print.
Right.
It's really, I think, what it comes down to for me. Like, if I know that this photo couldn't be printed and look good, then it's not worth any money, in my opinion. At that point, it's worthless. So
Right.
I'll kind of get rid of it. But yeah, I'm I'm really picky, but I don't know. I feel like it's kind of important to be picky because it like forces me to really pay attention and focus on what I'm doing too.
Right.
Because if I'm trying to sell all these photos, then I feel like there needs to be a high standard. I don't want to sell trash. So,
Agree. Corsa Tech is asking, what branch of the military were you in?
I was an Army National Guard out of California. I was a 15 Bravo. I worked on turbine engines on helicopters. That's what
Awesome.
I did.
That's cool. That's cool.
Yeah, it was pretty cool, I guess. I'm happy I'm out, but whatever.
Well, you mentioned briefly too a hit rate. So you talked about how you're at a higher or faster shutter speed and then dial it down. As you go down, how much do you think that the hit rate is falling off?
Okay.
Like, what is your range?
So I'll start at like 100, 125, and usually my hit rate on that is like 8 or 9 out of 10. I can land those pretty consistently, especially when I'm first getting out and I'm warming up. So that's kind of where I start to like feel things. And then I like to shoot at 180, 160 because I feel like I get a decent hit rate. At that point, I would say it's like 6 out of 10. And then once you start dropping to 140 or lower, there's a lot more luck involved. Because at that point, too, there's more factors. At 1/100th of a second, even if a target's not traveling directly perpendicular to you, they're kind of at an angle, you can still get everything in focus and it'll be sharp. 180, that starts to go away. Like you have to be, essentially moving with them. And then when you get really low, like even any rotation. So like, if a car is mid drift and then it slightly angles while you're trying to shoot 140, it'll ruin the whole image immediately. And then the hit rate is obnoxious. The one time I got the 1/115 shot, I was trying specifically to get the 1/115 shot, and it took 140 images, and I got one. For the 120/140 stuff, probably I'd say 1 out of 15, maybe 120. It's not good.
Right.
I fill up the buffer on my camera before I hit that, so it's like multiple attempts, and it sucks for like some drifters because sometimes I don't get photos and people are asking me like, hey, did you get a photo of me?
Yep.
And then I look back and it's like I don't have any, like I don't like everything, especially at Wild Horse with dark black cars. It's just like sorry, like my camera can't even see you. It's a literal it's ridiculous. Like and it's like I feel bad because I'm trying to get a shot of literally everybody, but I mean that's the woes of it. I mean it really is it's a physics problem. when you really get down to it, the entire thing is a physics problem. Your shutter's going to be open for so long, and whatever light hits that sensor is going to burn into it, and that's going to give you your image. So the lower you shoot, the longer it's open, the more everything has to be perfect.
Yes.
And as much as I would love to give everybody a 1/15th shutter speed photo, it's never going to happen. It's too damn difficult. Literally the 1/15 shot I got, that car went by me 4 or 5 times before I got the shot, and I was waiting for a specific point. And like when I'm doing these panning shots, I'll square my body to the exact point where I want it to be, and you'll start leading them in, and then I'll start shooting before I want the image and after, and follow through. I'll stop taking the photo, and you just keep following through, especially at that shutter speed. I mean, you have to, and like it's a skill, and like I think maybe a lot of people don't understand exactly how it works, but because that 1/15 shot, if the car had even rotated, let's say 3 degrees, it's drifting like this, but just did this, then the photos is done. Like it'll literally be so blurry, like especially at that shutter speed, it'll just be a blurry mess. You won't be able to tell what's going on. And it's difficult, and I wish I could, but I can't.
Do you feel like you dedicate a certain amount of time while you're shooting to trying to hit those lower numbers, or is it more about getting the better hit rate so that they get something? Because that's like a dichotomy, right? You're torn in this direction. We want everybody to get something cool with their car, but we're also trying to up our skill. So how much time do you devote?
I do both. So like usually in the beginning, like the first hour, usually people are feeling pretty fresh too. Like any drifter motorcycle, they're feeling pretty fresh and like peppy too.
Yeah.
So you tend to get better shots. There's less fatigue for me and whoever I'm taking a photo of. So things tend to be more consistent. So that's when I'll shoot 180, 100. I'll focus on that, and I'll kind of take a mental note. Like, is there any specific car or motorcycle I didn't get a photo of? And then try and single them out. It's not so much the drift events, because the drift events, everyone kind of goes out 1 or 2 at a time, But at like motorcycle track days, you'll get these groups sometimes where you've got like 8 or 9 motorcycles all bunched together. And I'm trying to get photos of everyone and like trying to remember which bike. And like sometimes I'll take a note like, okay, in that pack, the 4th motorcycle I missed. And then they come around and they switch positions. So then I get photos of the same person.
Yeah.
But as the day progresses or whatever, that's when I start dumping, or if the light is like when it's sunset, I'll dump it immediately and just start trying to get the hero shots, because those are the shots people really want, and those are the ones that I like to take, and those are the ones people can look back on and be like, oh my god, or they could have printed and it'll be like, holy, this looks amazing, like out of a magazine.
Yeah.
But I try and do both, because I want to make sure people get photos, and at the same time I want to get better, and I want those epic hero shots. That's why I do it. I know when I was racing, that's all I wanted. I didn't like the normal shots of me doing. Didn't care, whatever. I mean, I bought all of them, but I was like, I don't care about it. But like those really good low shutter speed, high blur, knee dragging that was it. That's all I cared about. I was like, oh, I would come back into the pits, get off my bike, and be like, oh, I wonder if he got the shot.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, because and it's similar with drifters. They're looking for that too, right? And after an event, one of the things that I try to do and have done, and that's how you and I are talking and everything, is like I connect with other media, because if I didn't get them, somebody else hopefully did. So I'm constantly like trying to send drivers to other media direction so that they can get what they're looking for. Like the event I was asking you about for California, if you were going to be there, like that's one of the things that I think would be helpful, other than just them having a better idea of how much work this is and what we do to give them the photos, was like how many of us are out there trying to cover any spot that somebody else might have missed. Yeah, totally.
Oh, for sure. Like the last Wild Horse event, you weren't there, but Steven, I don't know if he's watching or not, but Nocturnal S550.
He's on,
yeah, he was out there, and like I had a couple people, ask me, hey, did you get any shots? And I was like, no. So I sent them his way. I'm like, hey, he was out there, he was taking photos, we were hanging out for a little bit. Like I'm never one to like try and gatekeep or whatever. Like I'm sure I'm out there, and I charge for my stuff, but I'm never get mad at other media being there, like anything like that. It's like,
Okay.
hey, we're all trying to like capture this cool stuff. Like, and then if a driver, I didn't get anything with driver, it's like, hey, maybe that guy did, or maybe that guy did. Like, and there's so many skilled photographers out there. Like
Mm-hmm.
in reality, like a lot of people can do this stuff. The business side of it is really more the service side of it, but there's a lot of like skilled people and passionate people that are trying to take photos of this stuff for the drivers because usually it's what they would want.
Mm-hmm.
I know for me, that's what got me into it. Is like, okay, if I can't do it, then I'm gonna get the coolest damn videos and photos of other people doing it, so that I can at least stay, stay as like part of the community and like do something instead of just like watching from the sidelines or
Yeah.
whatever. It's like
Yeah.
it's the same thing. Like all of my T-shirts are from drivers or riders
Right. Yeah.
because I want to support their programs. Like,
Mm-hmm.
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like it's the same thing. It's like, but yeah, sometimes I feel like I mean I haven't really run into it. Maybe at Fuel Fest a little bit. It kind of felt like some of the media guys were like kind of like offish with each other or whatever, and it was like why? Like
Yeah.
there's plenty of room for all of us. There really is.
Yeah.
Like there's no need to like I don't know get like territorial I guess or whatever. It's like who cares? Just like because I'll tell you all my secret. I don't care. Like I will tell you exactly how I do everything because all that means is that hopefully there's going to be a lot better photos and better media,
Mm-hmm.
and especially nowadays, social media is everything. Like if it's
Yes.
not on a phone, it doesn't
Yes.
exist. So
Yes.
it's like the more people that are pointing cameras at the stuff, the better, because
Right.
then there'll be more interest, more people will start doing it, and that's just
Hopefully
better
we'll
for
keep
the
tracks
sport as a whole.
open. They'll
Yes,
stop closing tracks.
yes,
Like,
yes, that
yeah.
too. Like it helps every piece of the puzzle. So it's like, okay, that's how I can give back. Let me
Yeah.
jump on it.
Totally.
For sure I charge for my stuff, but I don't really make any money from it. So I'm just basically break even.
Yeah.
So, and that's all I really care about. I'm just trying to make sure that, if my camera breaks, whatever, I have the money to repair it or that I can upgrade to some of the newer stuff and provide better
Yeah.
stuff. I'm always I always want to give better and better and better stuff to whoever wants it. Like, I think drifting is still pretty popular. I don't know how much of a fall off it's seen in fans and stuff. Like NASCAR, they're dying, doing everything they can, trying to get fans back.
Mm-hmm.
Like motorcycle racing in America is a husk of what it used
Yep.
to be. Like even in Moto America, there's maybe four or five guys actually getting paid to race. Everybody else there is paying
Mm-hmm.
to race those motorcycles. Like it is really a passion sport. Like
Right.
there's no money going in and out of that program. And so it's like if more people are looking, if there's more eyes, it means you get bigger brand deals for these organizations and all that kinds of stuff, and that's good for everybody because then it's easier for drivers to get sponsors and stuff like that, and that's really the driving force behind why I got like into all this
Yeah.
stuff.
Yeah. Okay, so we're already almost at 50 minutes, so we're going to have to cut
Oh
this so I
wow.
can upload it. But
Okay.
last question is from Stereo Vision. Do you do a lot of drone work?
I do some, not a lot. I have a DJI Mavic Pro that I bought again used on eBay for $400, and then I've been shooting with that. But I need to upgrade. Honestly, I do some drone work, but getting your Part 107 very important. It's not that difficult. There's all these like courses and stuff out there. If you go on the FAA website and download their study guide and read all the documentation, I studied for about 3 weeks and I just took the test and I got like 92%. So it's not this super crazy thing. But the big thing is they're just trying to make people take stuff seriously. Because like if you do take it seriously, like I've gotten to fly at Las Vegas
Wow.
Motorsports or Motor Speedway. That's literally right next to Nellis Air Force Base. I mean, you literally can't get any closer. As far as it's Class B airspace, zero authorized 0 feet off the ground. That's what's allowed. And you can file for FAA authorization. And I, told them, hey, I got a radio so that I can listen to the tower while I'm flying. I have an anti-collision light, which isn't technically needed to fly during the day, but I put it on during the day anyway and put it in my request to let them know, like, hey, I'm taking this seriously. Like, I'm looking for real authorization. And I got it. The FAA authorized it, and they put me in touch with Nellis, and then Nellis contacted me, and I can email them now and be like, hey, I got my authorization. Here's my Part 107. This is what I'm doing. This is why I'm doing it. And then they authorize me. I've done it twice now.
That's awesome. That's
The
awesome.
drone stuff is really cool. I've never done any FPV drones. I've been looking at buying like a little one that I can like start playing with in the house, but um, already trying to double duty photo and video at the track, and then you toss drone work into there, it just starts becoming a problem of like I don't have enough time or the energy to try and do all of it. So
yeah, something has
but
to give. Something has to give.
yeah, I'm only one person.
Yeah,
Like,
totally.
I don't have 6 hands, unfortunately. That would be awesome.
Wouldn't it? Makes things so much easier. So much easier. Well, I just want to thank you very much for coming on. I appreciate it. And I am
Great.
going to keep doing these. So if there's somebody
Sweet.
that you want me to talk to or you have questions that you want me to cover, just let me know. Shoot me a DM, put it in the comments on this post, and I will try to do that. So I will see you June 24th out at Wild
Awesome.
Horse. Yep. All right. Thank you very much. Good night, everybody.
See ya.